She told me she was just going to the gym. But while I was working a double shift, her location glitched on outside her ex's apartment. And the screenshots I took that night unraveled our entire engagement that I've worked in hospitality for almost 12 years. But people still assume that means I'm some extroverted, always smiling caricature. In reality, running double shifts at a mid-sized hotel downtown just means I'm good at pretending to be calm while everything burns. I don't love the job, but it pays for most of our wedding. Well, what was supposed to be our wedding? That night, 2 months before everything imploded, I was halfway through a 14-hour shift. Thursdays were supposed to be light, but two of the evening staff called out, and I was already on thin ice financially, so I volunteered to cover. My fiancée, Lena, said she didn't mind. She even sounded supportive when I left that morning, her hair in a loose bun, sipping the burnt coffee I always make too strong. Just don't fall asleep driving home, she'd said. And text me when you're on break. That was normal. Sweet, even. But there had been small things lately, things I kept explaining away. Like how she'd started putting her phone face down more often. Or how her gym schedule, previously etched in stone, had become kind of flexible, though somehow always in the evenings. Or the way she asked about my work calendar more than usual, like she wanted windows. Opportunities. Red flags, maybe, but faint. More like pinkish. And after 8 years together, you don't jump at shadows. Still, something had been simmering for weeks. A shift in tone. A kind of polite distance. As if she were rehearsing sentences in her head every time I entered the room. But that morning she kissed me. Quick, warm, familiar. So I swallowed the unease and clocked in. By 7:30 p.m., the lobby had finally quieted. I sat in the back office with a cup of tea that tasted like wet cardboard, scrolling through the CCTV logs for the day. One of my responsibilities. The rhythmic clicking of the old Dell mouse was oddly soothing. That's when my phone buzzed. Lena, hey, don't be mad. I'll go to dinner with my ex. He's in town and insisted. I stared at the screen, genuinely confused for a moment. The way your brain refuses to process a line of text that feels like it belongs in someone else's phone. A second buzz. Lena, it's just dinner. I didn't want to hide it. A third. Lena, please don't overthink. I'll be home by 10. There's this thing that happens when you've worked in crisis environments long enough. Your emotions delay themselves. First comes silence, then inventory. My mind did a sweep. She never mentioned he was coming to town. She had blocked him a year ago after he sent drunk messages. Don't be mad is what people say when they know, absolutely know, that you will be. We had a joint meeting with her father on Saturday to discuss the venue deposit, his gift to us. And somewhere beneath all that, an old, cold instinct I didn't like to acknowledge. The part of me shaped by growing up with a father who lied often and smiled through it. The part that learned to identify dishonesty by micro-pauses and misaligned words. Something wasn't right. I typed, deleted, typed again. Then, maybe because exhaustion strips away politeness, I sent the one thing I knew would force clarity. Me. Perfect. I'll send this to your dad before he pays for the wedding. I wasn't threatening. I wasn't shouting. I was stating a boundary. Because if she was choosing to cross a line, her father deserved to know before spending the equivalent of my annual salary on our ceremony. The message delivered. No typing indicator. Nothing. The office clock hummed above me. Then my phone lit up so fast it slid on the desk. Lena, wait. Don't. Please don't. It's not what it sounds like. Lena, I swear I wasn't going to go. Lena, I just didn't want you to be upset that he asked. Lena, please call me. Lena, please don't message my dad. Her panic was immediate, disproportionate, and, ironically, clarifying. People don't beg like that unless the truth is more complicated than the excuse. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was a deep, hollow fatigue, like someone had opened a trapdoor in my chest. I locked the office door and dialed her. She answered on the first ring, voice trembling slightly. Why did you text me that? I asked. My tone sounded strange to my own ears, flat, almost clinical. What's going on? I'm not going, she rushed. I swear to God. I was just being honest because he reached out, and I didn't want you thinking something was happening behind your back. She breathed hard, uneven. Why are you crying? I asked quietly. I knew it would sound bad, but I didn't think you'd jump to telling my dad. He already thinks you're too protective. And if he gets worried about this, he'll pull funding and, there it was. Not worry about me. Worry about money. Optics. Her father's opinion. My stomach tightened. Lena, I said, why did you tell me you'll go to dinner if you weren't actually planning to go? A pause. A thin, high-pressure silence over the line. I don't know, she whispered. I panicked. Panicked about what? Another silence. Then she mumbled something. So soft I barely caught it. I didn't want to lie. But she already had. And she knew I knew. I ended the call gently. Not dramatically, not angrily. Because part of surviving adulthood is knowing when you're not in the right mental space to process truth. When I stepped back into the lobby, the night felt different, heavier. The quiet didn't comfort, it echoed. I checked in 2 late arrivals automatically, muscle memory doing the work while my mind drifted. That last thing she said replayed in loops. I didn't want to lie. It's a phrase that implies the lie already exists. I remembered, suddenly and sharply, a moment from 2 weeks prior. She'd been in the kitchen, phone in hand, smiling at something. When I asked what was funny, she'd said, just a meme. Too quickly, flipping the phone over. Or the time she insisted on doing the grocery run alone, something she used to ask me to join her for. She returned with exactly the same items as always, but the receipt was missing. Pinkish red flags. Now more red than pink. But still, proof mattered. Assumptions can ruin things just as thoroughly as betrayal. By the time midnight rolled around and I finally clocked out, a plan was forming in the back of my mind. Not out of paranoia, but out of self-preservation. I wasn't going to accuse her. I wasn't going to explode. I was going to observe, document, confirm. Years of dealing with difficult guests and corporate audits had taught me one truth. If something is wrong, the evidence will surface on its own. As I drove home through the quiet streets, her earlier messages pinged again in my memory, each one tightening something behind my ribs. Don't be mad. I'll go to dinner with my ex. Please don't tell my dad. I didn't know it yet, but that text, those 9 careless words, would unravel everything I thought I understood about the woman I'd planned to marry. And the unraveling had already begun. When I got home that night, the apartment was dark except for the soft glow from the living room lamp. Lena was curled up on the couch, still in her leggings and oversized hoodie. The TV paused on some home renovation show we used to watch together. She looked up the moment I closed the door. You didn't text me when you got off, she said softly. I got out late. A neutral answer. True, but not complete. That was the theme of our evening, I guess. Partial truths, deliberate omissions. She stood, wrapped her arms around me, and pressed her face to my chest. For a moment, I let my chin rest on her head. The familiar scent of her coconut shampoo hit me, and something inside me tightened painfully. Are we okay? She asked. I don't know yet. She flinched slightly at that, but said nothing. We went to bed without really talking. She fell asleep quickly, which surprised me, but I lay awake staring at the faint outline of the ceiling fan, replaying everything. Her tone, her panic, that sudden, frantic backpedal, and a bigger question that scared me more than anything. Why was her first instinct to tell me not to contact her dad? Not to reassure me, not to explain, not to ask me what I needed. Just, don't ruin the financial arrangement. That stuck like a splinter in my mind. The next morning, she acted as though nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed while tying her hair, asked if I wanted her to pick up groceries on the way home. It was almost too normal, the way people behave when they need a performance to land correctly. Can you send me your work schedule? She asked casually, stirring her coffee. Why? So I can plan dinner. Or date nights. Whatever. She shrugged. I know you're doing a lot of doubles this month. That request wasn't new, but the timing made my brain sharpen around it. I texted her the schedule anyway. Her eyes flicked over it with almost relief. That was my second moment of certainty that something was off. For the next week, I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse. I didn't snoop, at least not in the invasive way. Instead, I observed. Part of me felt pathetic, doing quiet detective work in my own home. Another part of me felt steady, methodical, like I was bracing for a truth that would hurt far more if it blindsided me. Here's what I noticed. 1. Her gym trips lasted longer. She used to be gone an hour. Now it was an hour 45. She always came home freshly showered, hair slightly damp, makeup minimal, no gym smell. 2. Her phone notifications became whispers. Vibration only, screen dimmed, the entire device angled away from me on reflex. 3. She became overly affectionate. Not natural affection, the scripted kind. the sort people deploy when they're trying to compensate for something. Every kiss felt like an apology I wasn't supposed to hear. 4. She guarded her location sharing. She turned off the share my location feature with a vague comment about battery drain, even though we'd used it for years without issue. Pink flags turning red. On Thursday, exactly a week after her infamous text, I got off work early because the hotel lobby's AC had blown out and we had to close for evening maintenance. I texted Lena that I'd be home by 6. She didn't respond. Odd, but not alarming. Until I got home, and she wasn't there. Her purse was gone. Her gym bag was gone. Her workout shoes were missing from the shoe rack. She had clearly left in a rush. I checked her location. Still off. I sat on the couch, feeling something sweat-cold slide down my spine. Then, an hour later, her location flickered on. Accidentally, maybe. Or she pressed something wrong. She wasn't at her gym. Not even close. She was across town near a cluster of restaurants and boutique bars. A familiar area. Too familiar. It was where her ex lived. My heart thudded slowly, almost medically calm. My hands didn't shake. My breath stayed steady. If anything, I felt cold. Colder than I'd felt in years. Because this, finally, was data. Not paranoia. Facts. I didn't go after her. I didn't call. I didn't text. I simply took a screenshot of the location. And another when her didn't move for 25 minutes. Then another when it shifted slightly toward a bar I recognized from her old stories. I didn't know the full truth yet, but it was close enough that my chest felt tight. She came home at 9:47 p.m. Her cheeks were flushed, not from exercise. Her mascara had smudged faintly, though she never wore makeup to the gym. Her laugh was too bright when she said, "Hey, babe," and her eyes widened for a fraction of a second when she saw me sitting in the dark. "You're early," she said. "I told you." "Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry." She set down her gym bag too quickly, like it was a prop she needed to get rid of. I watched her. Calm. Quiet. "Good workout?" I asked. She hesitated. Only half a second, but enough. "Yeah," she said. "Leg day." I nodded once. "Cool. Anything interesting happen?" She shook her head too fast. "No. Just cardio and stretching." I let the silence sit between us. For the first time, she wouldn't meet my eyes. That night, as she showered, longer than usual, I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to be right. But when someone lies to your face, gently, skillfully, habitually, ignoring it becomes a form of self-harm. I scrolled through the screenshots again. Her location, the timestamps, the cluster of bars. Then I opened a new note on my phone titled, "Lena, Inconsistencies Log." It felt awful to write that, like something irreversible had happened inside me. But I kept typing, because the truth was coming, and I needed to be ready. The unraveling wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, subtle, slow. The way a small crack spreads across glass until suddenly it spiders into something unfixable. And by the time she came out of the shower, humming softly, wrapped in a towel, looking at me like she still owned the version of me from 2 months ago, I already knew part 3 was coming. And I wasn't sure she understood how much would break when it did. Update 1. I wasn't planning to post an update this soon. Honestly, I wasn't planning to post one at all. But something happened last night that forced a line in the sand. A week passed between part 2 and this. A week of quiet, deliberate observation. Not paranoia, not snooping, just paying attention to the rhythm of my own life and the ways hers no longer aligned with it. Here's how things unraveled. Last Friday, Lena asked if she could take my car because hers needed gas and sounded weird. Fine. I didn't think much of it. When she brought it back, everything looked normal until I glanced at the passenger seat and saw a folded piece of paper she'd missed wedged between the seat and console. A printed receipt from a restaurant in the exact area where her gym trip had been last week. Timestamp, 7:42 p.m. 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, and a server name I recognized from her old stories. A place her ex used to take her. I sat there with the receipt in my hand, not angry, just numb in that detached, clinical way people get right before bad news becomes official. I took a photo, added it to the log, didn't confront her. Not yet that I'm not wealthy, but I'm not naive. I knew marriage meant binding my finances to someone whose judgment I no longer trusted. So I scheduled a quiet consultation with a local attorney. Not to file anything, just to ask about prenup options, shared debt protections, What happens if wedding funds are misused? How to safeguard my accounts? He was a calm guy in his mid-40s, the kind of man who's seen every version of this story. After I explained, in vague terms, the text, the lies, the receipts, the double life simmering beneath my apartment walls, he just said, document everything. And don't tip your hand too early. People who lie reflexively escalate when they panic. I remember nodding, feeling simultaneously ashamed and relieved. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't paranoid. I was preparing. On Tuesday, I came home early again. Maintenance issue at the hotel. I quietly unlocked the door. Lena was in the bedroom, speaking on speakerphone. She must have thought I was still at work. Her shoes were off, gym bag untouched. I could hear her voice from the hall. No, you can't text me like that. He saw the message. Yes, that one, the dinner thing. He threatened to send it to my dad. A pause. A frustrated sigh. Because he's serious about the wedding, that's why? And dad is paying for almost everything. If he thinks I'm screwing around. No, I'm not screwing around, okay? I needed space. You know that. Another pause. Longer this time. No. Stop. If he finds out you've been texting me, it's over. I mean it. Her voice dipped, softer. I told you, we can't talk like this after we're married. You knew that. I felt something in my chest go very still. She wasn't lying to protect a mistake. She was maintaining two tracks of a future. One with me, financial stability, wedding, her father's approval. And one with him, whatever emotional or physical closure she was chasing. And she intended to drop him after the wedding. Like a switch she could flip. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. I didn't walk in. I didn't slam a door. I stepped back out and walked to my car as quietly as I'd entered. Sat behind the wheel. Filed what I heard under the growing list of data points. Then drove to a 24/7 diner and just sat there for an hour, staring at untouched coffee. Last night, around 10 p.m., we finally talked. She came home from another gym session that didn't match her schedule or her appearance. This time she smelled faintly of perfume, not hers. We sat at the kitchen table, the overhead light flickering slightly, casting unflattering shadows on both of us. I need to ask you something, I said. She froze. Okay, have you seen him? Your ex? At all? Since he came to town? Her eyes darted. Barely, but enough. No, I told you I blocked him. I didn't speak. I just placed the restaurant receipt on the table between us. She stared at it like it was a weapon. I found this in my car, I said. Her throat bobbed. I, that's, I had dinner with Emily. She and I. There are two cocktails. You don't drink on gym days. Silence. And I heard your phone call, I added quietly. The one you thought I wasn't home for. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Finally. Okay, she whispered. Yes, I saw him. Twice. I let out a slow breath. Not relief. Not anger. Just confirmation. Why? I asked. She put her head in her hands. I don't know. I thought maybe I needed closure. Or to prove something to myself. Or, I don't know. He reached out months ago, and I didn't tell you. I should have. I know. Months. But that wasn't the part that hurt. The part that hurt was when she said, I wasn't going to tell you. But I wasn't going to keep seeing him after the wedding. This was temporary. It didn't mean anything. Temporary. Like a rental. Like trial cheating. My voice came out colder than I meant. And I was just supposed to marry you and never find out? She cried. Hard. The kind of crying that tries to rewrite the narrative in real time. I never slept with him, she insisted. I swear. I just talked to him. Twice. 3 times. But nothing happened. You have to trust me. I didn't answer. Because trust is a currency you can't print more of after bankruptcy. Here's the unexpected part. I didn't end the engagement. Not yet. I told her this. We're pausing everything. No venue payments. No invitations. No planning. We're getting counseling. Individually. Together. And if you lie again, once, this is done. She agreed immediately, desperate, nodding fast, wiping tears. But the truth is, I'm not pausing the wedding to save it. I'm pausing it because I need space to understand what the hell happened to the woman I thought I knew. She moved into the guest room last night. I slept for the first time in 3 days. And for the first time since her text, I feel steady. Not happy. Not optimistic. Just grounded. Final update that it's been a little over 2 months since my last update. Enough time for emotions to cool into something more recognizable. like sediment settling at the bottom of a glass. Enough time for clarity, though not enough for peace. A lot happened. None of it fast. None of it cinematic. Just slow erosion, like water carving its way through stone. Here's what actually went down. Lena and I both started individual counseling, then joint sessions. I went in skeptical. Not hostile, just realistic. You can't therapy your way out of dishonesty if the dishonesty is structural. Our therapist, a quiet middle-aged woman named Evelyn, didn't take sides. She asked questions, sharp ones. To Lena, why did you maintain communication with someone you claimed to be done with? What did that relationship give you that your current one did not? What made deception feel safer than truth? To me, what allowed you to ignore the early signs? What part of you needed to hold the relationship together? Why did you choose observation over confrontation for so long? Some of those questions hurt more than the answers. Because the truth is, I wasn't as strong as I pretended to be. I was conflict avoidant in ways I didn't want to admit. I rationalized things because losing her felt scarier than the red flags. That's on me. Not the cheating, but the ignoring. Counseling didn't repair us. Counseling showed us we already weren't reparable, that I never sent him the message. I meant it when I said it, but I didn't follow through. I thought that would make me feel principled, mature. It didn't. It just felt heavy. But the truth has a way of leaking through cracks you don't expect. During a joint family dinner, I wasn't there. Thankfully, her mother asked casually if we'd finalized the vendor payments yet. Lena slipped. She said something like, "We're pausing the wedding for now." Her father asked why. Lena panicked and told him the truth. Not all of it, but enough. He called me the next day. Calm, restrained, disappointed, not in anger, but in sadness. "I wish she'd told us sooner," he said quietly. "You didn't deserve that." He told me the venue deposit was canceled. He told Lena she needed to earn back trust with her family too. He told me I had his respect for not hiding behind excuses or theatrics. I thanked him. And after we hung up, I sat on the edge of the bathtub and cried for the first time in years. Not because of the wedding, because part of me finally accepted it was really, truly over. 2 weeks ago, Lena sat me down. No makeup, hair tied back in a messy knot. She looked young in a way she hadn't in months. She said, "I think you're done." I can feel it. I didn't correct her. There was nothing to correct. She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she said. Not frantic, not defensive, just tired. "I didn't cheat physically, but I lied. I hid things. I took advantage of your trust. I thought I could handle two parts of my life at once, and I was wrong." Her voice cracked. "I don't think I loved him. I think I loved the version of myself I used to be with him. And I tried to grab it back before it disappeared forever." Part of me wanted to hold on to those words. Another part of me understood they weren't for me. They were her confession to herself. When she finished, I said only this: "I forgive you, but I can't marry you." She nodded. She didn't cry. And that, somehow, hurt more than if she had. She moved out 3 days later. Quietly, respectfully, leaving behind her keys and the blue mug she always used for tea. I found the mug the next morning and had to sit down because my chest clenched so hard I thought something inside me had snapped. Grief isn't a moment. It's a drip. Ending an engagement sounds simple. It isn't. I had to remove her from my health insurance, separate our joint savings, change passwords to accounts we shared, transfer the lease back to my name, cancel deposits, subscriptions, and wedding-related timelines, notify distant relatives who'd already booked flights. These tasks felt strangely humiliating. Not because of her, because of the paperwork that assumed I'd failed at something big. Our therapist said, "You didn't fail." The relationship reached its endpoint. It didn't make me feel better, but it made me feel accurate. My apartment feels bigger now. Not in a good way. In a the silence echoes differently way. Some nights I work double shifts voluntarily just to avoid going home. Some mornings I find myself checking my phone for her out of muscle memory. I'm not angry anymore. Not heartbroken. Even. Just tired. There's a numbness that comes after betrayal. Not sharp. Not dramatic. A flat, heavy awareness that trust is not something you just rebuild with the next person. I go to individual therapy still. Lena continues hers too, from what I've heard through her sister. We don't talk. Not because of hatred. Because there's nothing left to say. This isn't a story about villain and victim. It's not about revenge or triumph. It's about two people who drifted apart quietly, then violently, then inevitably. I learned this. Love isn't enough without honesty. Red flags don't fade when ignored, they grow teeth. Staying calm doesn't mean staying whole. Betrayal isn't always loud. It can be soft, polite, almost tender. Healing isn't dramatic. It's maintenance, repetition, work. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning. And sometimes the right ending still feels like failure. But the biggest lesson? You don't get to choose whether the truth hurts. You only get to choose whether it blindsides you or sets you free. I chose not to be blindsided. Freedom is still coming slowly. Like dawn through thick fog that there's no reconciliation coming. No big speech. No reunion. No new partner. No triumphant rebirth. Just me, going to work, paying bills, attending therapy, relearning what quiet feels like. Some nights it's unbearable. Some mornings it's peaceful. But it's real. And that, after everything, is enough for now.